I've had this sickle bar mower. It's a Maschio Gaspardo Fiore model sickle bar mower for I think 3 years. This is the third year I've owned it. And so I've done all of the routine maintenance, and I've also showed you how to troubleshoot it and set it up. But this year I need to take the knife out of it, and we're going to do some knife maintenance as well as some other maintenance on the bar itself. So the manual is a little sketchy on how it shows you to do this. So we're going to do it together, and I haven't found anything else on videos on how to work on these mowers specifically. So we're going to do that together today. Now remember, these are made in Italy, so if you're using standard size sockets, they're not going to fit quite right. So I do have metric sockets. The first thing we need to do here is take this guard off. This is going to be the guard that covers area where the knife and the cutter bar move. So one of the complaints I've heard since my last video on these is that people say that a lot of the parts get loose, they shake off, and they have some issues. So I'm going to need a non-deep socket there. I'll use a wrench. These are 10 millimeters. So the first thing we have to do is take this guard off, and I need to get to the section pins that are inside. So to do that, I'm going to use this wrench here. It's 10 millimeter. I'll take these bolts out. There's a couple things I've taken off this tractor. One of them, there's a pull rope that you have. There's a drop down shield, so it would only allow the cylinder to retract to about right here. And the problem is that cable thing, it wouldn't release. So then it would never drop that block down. So I couldn't pick it up. I'd have to get off the tractor every time and manually put it down. It didn't matter what I did, I just couldn't get it to work right. So that's why that's not there. And that was on the cable that you see there. I just decided I didn't need it anymore. Alright, so now we're down on the mechanism here. And you can see there's two grease fittings here. What I need to do is get these off. It's almost like there's two little pistons here. Go like this. And that's what moves the sickle and the guard at the same time. So we've got to take each one of those off. And these are weighted. There's a weighted counterweight here that keeps it from vibrating. So how do we get this bolt out of here? Because you can see there's two, and they have to go by each other, and they have to go back in a specific way. So we can try just unbolting it. I mean, it sounds simpler than I think it looks, or it looks simpler than I think it is. But we'll find out, because there's two of them, and this is going to be in the way as well. So we may need to pull the whole thing off. It just doesn't say in the manual specifically. And these have to be torqued back on. So you need a torque wrench. You can't just crank it on and call it good, or otherwise you may end up throwing the bolt. It looks like I may be able to get that off without another wrench. But these have to go on a certain way, otherwise they'll bind and probably break something. So these are not lock nuts. They're not acorn nuts. They're kind of like lug nuts, but they go a certain way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put those in this box, my tray, the way I took them out. That's not going to get by there. You can already see that. But you have to get that bolt out in order to remove the knife. So somehow I've got to get. So I'm guessing. I'll try to see if I can turn the PTO. I don't know if I can or can't. We'll see. Probably not very well. Let me think about this for a second. Alright, so because this is not the same as the old Pitman mowers, you can see this bolt right here is caught on this. That one is not. So I'm guessing if I unhook that one first, I might be able to move this separately of this one to access this bolt. But I can't get it out. You see this is hitting here. But that's not the case on the other one. So we'll try that and see if that'll come off. Well, everything has its drawbacks, so I had to just keep turning the PTO on and off until I got it to basically this position, and you can see right where my finger is, there's a hole in here that you can pull the bolt back through, but be careful because it'll look like that, and now I'd have to go find another one. So it's kind of a different kind of bolt, and I think the hardware store probably has one, but it's definitely odd. So be careful of that. So when you get this out, you're going to see that it's like that. Well, now the drawback is that my grease fitting won't go by this. No matter what I do, it won't go by it. So I have to take the grease fitting out to get the cutter bar out. So that's the next thing we're doing. And didn't see that coming either. So I can see a couple things. Like this is a kit. It's sold with this and this bushing like that, and you have to buy both sets. And there's a specific way this is supposed to go together, and I can see that the dealer, when they installed this, put it on backwards. So they had this bolt going like this, and they had the other one like this, but it was supposed to go the other way. That's why the thing wouldn't clear. It also looks like you can see the head of the knife is on that flywheel, and I can see that if I pry down on this, like if I was to it's hard to do this holding the camera, but if I pry down on it like that, it'll get it past this. So it's like if I had somebody who could hammer on the other end of this knife while I hold this down, I think it'd come off a lot easier. One thing they did that's kind of clever, and I will definitely give credit for this, is that you just take your stay hook, and you take your stay hook and you go underneath like that, and you put it on here like that, and that should pull that right out without too much difficulty. I can even put the knob back on the end, so I got a nice little handle that'll slide right out. This one's like 6'6" or 6. It's in meters. So this is your knife head right here, and this is the part that attaches to the mower body itself. In the old days, this was the one that you used, and it had a ball on it, and then you can still get the straps, the Pitman straps. I think it's a Ford 501, but if you look at this right here, you can still get the Pitman end that goes here, the straps, and that's pretty much the same as the Ford. The other end of the Pitman for the Ford has like a circle like this on it, so it's a little different than the international ones. What I'm wondering is if you have one of these old Sickle mowers that's got this on it, if you can take this part off and put it on here, and I don't see why that wouldn't work. Or if you've got an old one with this on it and you want to put it on this one, would that work? I know you can buy the knife heads for both. So we'll take a look down the knife, and you want to look for imperfections and see if there's parts gouged out of it. So you look right here. I don't know if you can see that very well. You can see there's a notch taken out there, so we've got to replace this one. You just go down through and see what they look like. Because what happens is you'll get like something will come up in between and take a hunk out of it, and then they won't cut right anymore. And these will get dull after a while. Some people will sharpen them, but this is an under-serrated section, and I don't think you can sharpen those very well. You just replace them. So it can be a little tough sometimes, because what happens, you end up shining everything up. The rivets will be the first things to shine, but if you can still feel the mushroom on there, it's not gonna come out. The second way is you take your knife and you set it so that the spine of it is resting on your vise, and you tighten it up just enough so it doesn't fall off. So you got to go to your loose section, which was this one right there. So we're going to have this in there so the spine is on, and we're just going to lightly clamp that, and it's just enough so that it doesn't go anywhere. You can put a block of 2x4 or whatever under there, but basically what you do is you take that and what that does, that shears those rivets off, and then they'll come right out. And it's probably the easiest way to get these off. You just want to be careful because you don't want to stave the crap out of your spine. So you want to kind of hit it. You don't want to hit the spine. You really want to kind of have your hammer hitting in the front, if you can, best you can. And it should pop right off. This is probably the quickest way. I'll show you the tool. I've also got a tool that you can use to press them, and then it mushrooms the other side. So we'll do this. These last two got to come off. And if you were doing this in the field, you could leave it on the tractor. And the way that's done is then you have to use the tool, which they're kind of hard to find now. They used to be pretty common. You might have to take the punch. We'll get the punch here in a second and get these off. But you can also take the grinder and grind the mushroom off. Grind it down a little bit, and that will help you so that these will come off faster. But you can't really fix these ones. I used to have this tool that was a McCormick one. It would clamp on it was for a sulky mower, and it would clamp on the wheel, and you could take this and run it through, and you'd crank it, and it would sharpen the teeth. But that's not really a thing that you can do anymore. And it looks like this one needs to come off. And I'd say that one. You can put these down and just draw a big X on the ones you want to get off too, and sometimes that's helpful. And it's really hard to see probably, but you've got these chunks taken out. So what happens is with the sickle mower, it's got the rock guards on it, but you still get sometimes some stones that stick up through. You hit that, and the scissor action puts a nick in them. So I have a couple fans going. It's really hot today, so hopefully you can hear me okay. So anyway, these regular IH sections don't fit. You have to use the Gaspardo sections, which are bigger. And like I said, they've got a little routed or a countersunk edge. There's also a countersunk edge on the knife section. So you have to make sure that these are underserrated. So we're going to put these back in exactly the same way they came out. You really want to flatten them down because you don't want anything sticking up that doesn't have to be. You just go down the line replacing sections, and just make sure that when you put them in, you're putting them in the right way, otherwise you'll have to pound them out and start over. So you really want to get them both through before you start pounding on it. It makes it a little bit easier. And be careful because these sections are super sharp. They're razor sharp, so you don't want to slice your fingers open. You may want to put some gloves on, or at least be super careful. I'm going to go ahead and finish fixing this knife, and then we'll take it together and we'll go put it on the machine. We'll put together the last couple of parts, and we'll take it out and try it and hope everything works. So I'll be right back. So here's our knife, and we'll go put this in. You just want to make sure after you get them all in, make sure all your sections are tight. You don't want any loose rivets. I got this one here that didn't go in just right, so I got to give that a pop. And it's weird because some of them sat in there flush and some didn't. So I'm just going to go down the knife real quick and give them all a pop. And I'll probably have to take the grease fitting off this too, I'm guessing. So there's a little groove, and it needs to go under that. And you want to be careful, like I said, you got to be super careful when you grab these because these are literally razors. We'll see if that goes by, but I feel like it's not gonna. Alright, so the last thing we're going to do is change out this swath stick, and then I want to show you a couple things that I took off this mower because I felt like I didn't need them. Maybe you feel differently, but I'll tell you why. There's two different positions for this, and I try to go to the upright one, the uppermost one. And they give you a carriage bolt, so it should lock in here in a second. If I get pressure on it without breaking it. It's got a lock nut on it, so there. Now it's back where it's supposed to be. Now there's like three things that I took off this tractor that I don't feel like I needed. One of them, for the hydraulic fold, there was a shield that went right in here, and it went up around and hooked onto this cable here, and then hooked up to a rope up there. And what would happen, well, the purpose of it is so when you get to the end of a row, you pick your mower up, that shield drops down, you only lift it so that your mower's like that, and then you go back down. But it sticks. It would stick in the down, and you pull on the thing, and it would stick, so you'd have to get off and unhook it, and then you could fold it back up. So I got rid of that. The second thing I got rid of was, and I still have it kicking around, it's just, it's here, actually, I just don't use it. It's this right here, locks that, so if it trips, it doesn't come open too much on the road, but it has never tripped on the road, and if it did, it only would open a little bit anyway. And the last thing I never use is there's a cover, a cowling that goes over all this right here. It makes it really difficult to service the knife. You get junk knife, hay and stuff bunged up in there, and then it's kind of a bear to clean it out. So the shield is gone. You just want to make sure you don't put your fingers in there. But you can see right there, this one right here has got the chamfered bolt on it. That one right there is just a straight up metric bolt. It's the same as equivalent as 3/8. I've never hooked it on with the eye match before, and I'm going to try it this time just because I think, well, it made it a lot easier to hook everything up. This right here is to keep your mower so it only goes down just so far. Basically what you do is you measure down between 19 and 21 inches to that corner and set your chain so it only goes just down that far. And then with your sway bars here, you want to set it, you set these sway bars so it kicks the whole machine over. And when you kick that machine over, so having it kicked over like this, it ends up knife your bar, and because of the friction of it's gonna want to come out a little bit. It's gonna, it's gonna want to drag. So in order to keep it tight to the front, to get that tolerance back about 3 inches, probably maybe less, you have to kick your whole mower over to the right. And what that does is that turns it like this, and that in turn takes your knife and tilts it forward a little bit. So then when you put it down, you're cutting straight on. If you are dragging behind, it doesn't cut as well. And also with the hydraulic top link, you can adjust it without a hydraulic top link, but it's a little more difficult. Is what I do around here, because of the rocks and everything, is well, it's hard for me to show you. Let's say I'm going this way with it. I want the knife tipped up a little bit, so I'm cutting upward just a little bit. I'm over exaggerating with my hand, but just a little bit. And that way it rides up over everything. It doesn't trip that much, and it makes a good cut, especially this time of year when the grass is kind of heavy, and it just seems to do a little bit better job. I like it tipped up just a little bit. Some people will tip it down, but then you're driving your fingers, and so it saves a lot of wear on the machine if you have it riding up a little bit. But one of the biggest things I've figured out, though, is to kick your whole machine over that way. Because even if you don't kick it over, if you got it perfectly level, you're still, your inner shoe will still clear the tire, so you're not going to be driving over your crop. But you have to kick the whole machine over to the right hand side to get that tolerance accounted for, and then it cuts really well. So a lot of people have complained about pieces falling off, and I've been lucky. I haven't had anything fall off this machine, not one thing. It's been really reliable, and I like it a lot. The biggest challenges I've had are the fact that you've got this scissor action going. It's not like the old, the old-timer sickle bar mowers that I'm used to. Like, none of the old parts fit. You have to get Gaspardo parts to put on this. So the John Deere, the Frontier sickle bar mower is the same thing. There's Gribaldi. There's a whole bunch of those other like Italian companies that make these things, and I don't know that the stuff is
is compatible. So I haven't had anything fall off. I haven't had any troubles with it. The Ford distributing has everything I need, and I've been really happy with this mower. You just want to make sure that you give it a once over before you use it, and remember that none of the old Sickle bar mower parts fit on this thing. Not one thing fits. And all your knowledge of the old Pitman drive mowers, this is not going to work anything like it. There's no Pitman. It's belt drive. You have like a choo-choo train with the way the knives go. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to comment and I'll reply as soon as I can. But I haven't had any trouble with this mower. I really like it a lot. And like I said, the drum mower, the disc mower, there's a lot less moving parts, but with all these rocks and stuff, you can totally disintegrate one of those mowers really quickly. You know, and a hay bind, you're not going to run behind this little Mahindra tractor. So, you know, a drum mower, a disc mower, they're great. And if you've got a field that doesn't have rocks, that's what you should probably buy, because they don't take a lot of horsepower, they're not that heavy, and they work really well. But if you've got rocks and you want to cut hay, they really don't have a lot of options besides the Sickle bar. So I know some people have had questions about the hydraulic cylinder, and to measure it, you usually go between the pins with it retracted. So I was thinking it was a 24-inch, so it looks like 2 foot retracted, and I was thinking it was 2 inches. So your cylinder bore is 1 inch, so the outside diameter is 2 inches by 24 closed up. Anyway, I want to go get this edited and get it out, because I know a lot of people have been waiting for it. So I appreciate you watching. If you have any more questions, please comment down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. It's summer.